What's going on, everybody? This is Echo. Welcome to the Echoisthename podcast, episode 13. It's been a minute. Last time I did a podcast was last year, 2017, September. Took a pause, but I figured I better come back because a lot of people are asking me about the podcast and want to know about things that I have opinions on. So this week I'm going to talk about the most important and most abundant thing in the universe, at least on this wavelength that we're on. I think we can all agree that's love. That's a pretty open-ended term. It's very subjective. A lot of people have different perceptions, interpretations, definitions of what love is. But I think as a whole, on the whole, we can agree that love is probably the most important thing. And it's actually, like I said, it's the most abundant thing. You could never run out of love, no matter how much of it you ask for from yourself or from the universe. The two most important subcategories that we need to focus on and clean up as a global society are empathy and communication. Empathy is like the ability to remove yourself subjectively from your perspective and to put yourself in someone else's shoes as much as you humanly possibly can, emotionally and experientially. As far as like your life experience, how much of it you can tap into and how much emotion you're able to tap into to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes before taking any action or getting emotional about a situation or anything like that is being empathetic first. I believe it's a step above compassion where you're just kind of able to genuinely feel bad or sad for someone momentarily for their situation. See, I believe the majority of people on earth are empathetic. But I think that the people we've allowed to be put in positions that affect all of us cannot be empathetic and also try to hoard and control everything. See, both of those two goals are diametrically opposed. There's no way you can be empathetic and put yourself in other people's shoes before doing shit to people and also be the kind of person that wants to hoard and control everything you see in front of you because you feel like it's owed to you because of your bloodline or because you were born where you were born or because you are who you fucking are, right? I believe that if everybody did that in a moment-to-moment encounter with anyone else, like being empathetic and putting yourself in someone else's shoes, that would make our whole society look completely different than it does now, and not in a different, bad way. I think it could look exactly the way it looks, but even better. See, and I don't know why, but I feel that somehow being empathetic is seen in society as a soft thing, or like maybe it's girly sounding or some shit like that. Like maybe because it sounds like the word emotion. Or has like the sound of emo in it. People associate it with like this soft thing or something, like being empathetic. Like put yourself in someone else's shoes. No fucking way. Why would I do that? It's like, what do you mean, why would you do that? That's how you should carry yourself on a day-to-day basis for the most part. I mean, you can't just see everything in the world and the universe from your perspective only all the fucking time. That's not going to get you very far. You're always going to be your own worst enemy, and you're always going to be in your own way if you keep living that way. So you got to start being empathetic. You have to not be apathetic. Somehow people take that I don't want voting and that I don't want jobs and that I don't want money on this planet as apathetic. And they don't realize that I'm actually being empathetic when I say these things because I'm trying to see a society and a world where we're all liberated from the restraints and the anchors that we've been forced to wear, forced to carry for so long because other people make decisions that affect everybody on the planet, and they make laws, they make policies, they make all kind of shit that makes no sense to anybody else but them and themselves and the people they choose to educate about it. So everybody else is left in the dark, and that's fucked up. And that right there in and of itself is a huge example of not being empathetic. Because you know if you have something that could benefit everybody else, you should fucking share it. That's just like 101. See, for me, whether it's in situations where I've cheated or I've lied or I've interacted with coworkers or I've been disciplining my daughter or I'm pissed off at other drivers on the road, whatever it is, I try to put myself in other people's shoes constantly. It doesn't take as much energy and as much time and as much emotion as you may think it does. It actually becomes more like a life habit if you start to train that shit like a muscle. Communicating is important. I mean this in two ways. Not just the amount of communication that's lacking around the planet, but how communicating is coming across too. See, people often assume that others already know something, so why bother telling them? Or they feel that others wouldn't even understand what they're going to tell them, so why bother starting to tell them and then having to explain it? See, between that shit And the inability people have of expressing themselves clearly and honestly is a bad cocktail. Look at wars. Wars are a macrocosm of simply people being unable to communicate, or at least communicate honestly. Look at divorces. Same thing. It's an inability of two people to communicate enough or communicate honestly. Things fall apart at the workplace all the time because people, like, in the same office space, in the same fucking square footage, or in the same store they work at, they can't communicate with each other enough, or with transparency enough. So when they do communicate at all, it's like clear communication. It's not just muddled. It's not just like this weird ramble. I mean, the love for typing that we have with each other can't outweigh the ability to talk to each other. You can't, like, just replace one with the other. You can't just be typing all day long and communicating with people that way and not be talking to people enough about shit. You see depressed stars. You see all these actors, all these musicians and shit like that killing themselves all the time, committing suicide, ODing. And the first thing everybody in the media says, or their friends say, is like, oh, I wish they had just talked to us more. I wish they had said more. I wish they had communicated more. We would have been able to help them. It's like if people worked on putting themselves in other people's shoes more before taking action on shit or becoming emotional about shit, and if people also, like, spoke to each other more, and when they did speak to each other, if they did that shit with clarity and with some couth, I think we'd accelerate our ability to go back to, like, a golden age, like 11,500 years ago when we had the Satya Yuga. That kind of reality on the planet where everything is, like, just communicating with each other. But we could have that shit now. With the current technology we have, we can actually be able to communicate basically telepathically again, like we did back then. And we'd also be able to technologically, like, connect with each other, like almost quantum entanglement type shit, and also communicate and almost immerse ourselves in nature too. And we'd be like this one giant living energy that's expressing itself in all these infinite ways and shit. Like, it goes back to all the other shit that I've said in other podcasts. We're all one. We're all one, and we should be able to communicate clearly with each other, and we should be able to be empathetic and put ourselves in other people's shoes, because at the end of the day, we're each other. Like, you're me. Like, you're only here because of the same fucking energy that allows me to be here. Neither of us would be here if it wasn't for the one thing that we share, and we share this thing called consciousness. We are each other. We just look different to each other. And even the act of looking at each other isn't a visual thing, it's a mental thing. We see in our minds before we see with our eyes. Once we start to comprehend that type of shit and these two simple, like I said, subcategories of love, which is the most important and abundant thing on anywhere in this wavelength, the subcategories are empathy and communication. We do each of those things fucking more, and we'll start ascending even quicker. Like I keep saying, that's my ultimate goal, is to get all of this shit ascended. So we can live, like, we can live in a way where I can't even express it in human form, human words. That's how I've seen it. That's how I felt it. That's how I feel that it could be. This is Echo. One love. Stay tuned for the next one next week. Holla at me. Give me comments, feedback. Tell me if you like it or to shut the fuck up already. Remember, the Instagram is Echo is the name. The Twitter is Echo is the name. My website is echoisthename.com. My YouTube is The Real Echo is the name. My SoundCloud is Echo is the name. Everything on social fucking media is basically Echo is the name. If you Google Echo is the name, you'll find me. Let me know about different topics you wanted to talk about. Let me know if you want me to have anybody on the podcast talk with me. Let me know if you want to hear anything different from me as far as the music or anything that I'm posting on IG. Let me know if you want me to start an IG live channel, if you'd watch it. I need to know what y'all think, because if not, I'm just putting content out into the universe and into the new sphere, and it's just falling on the ether with nobody listening. So rock with me, because the more people I reach, the more we all win. One love.